All right. Well, hello and welcome to eSpeaks. I'm Corey Noles, managing editor here over at eWEEK and Technology Advice. Today, we're going to talk about the evolving role of API platforms as product ecosystems, kind of taking a step beyond the traditional plumbing approach at surface level that you might have thought of a few years back. We've invited Kong onto our show this week to discuss how Kong Konnect is helping teams better manage the growing spider webs of APIs that connect our world. With that said, I am super thrilled today to be joined by Saju Pillai. He's a senior vice president of engineering at Kong. Saju, welcome to eSpeaks.
Thank you very much for having me on, Corey. Looking forward to chatting with you.
Nice. Well, I guess let's dive right in. So the API landscape is pretty constantly evolving. How have APIs shifted more into products as opposed to traditional plumbing?
Yeah, it's very interesting. You use the word plumbing. Many years ago, that's exactly how I would describe, the APIs. It's about connectivity, right? So you have business logic that is packaged up, on the server side, so to speak, and there are other entities that need to access that business logic, and you got to solve the plumbing problem. I think a few years ago something fundamentally changed in the API world, which was the realization that business logic did not require the same company that owned the business logic to also own the user experience in terms of mobile client, thick client, or other experiences. In fact, there is as you would see, for example, with the in the ecosystem where you have these super apps, for example, in some countries, especially Southeast Asia, the chance that you can get your app on the user's phone, not that high. The fact that you may want your business logic to be integratable in a super app is just one simple example where the user experiences are now getting specialized by specialist companies that still need to access your business logic. Another quick example would be, let's say you are a big airline company and you are releasing airline seats to be, so that people can purchase them. The chance that they are actually using some kind of aggregator application or a specialized mobile app for ticketing is higher, and you want your business logic to go there. So the realization that APIs are products and APIs are not just a mechanism for plumbing, that realization happened, and I think that kind of changed a lot of how people think about APIs and uplifted APIs from a pure technical perspective to actually a revenue generating monetizable idea.
Wow, it's changed a lot. So, what would you say are the hidden costs then of poor API visibility?
Oh yeah. Actually, look, I mean, many people will tell you when you ask them about, hey, API visibility, that some of the stuff is obvious. There's duplication that can happen. There is lost effort that can happen. Uh, but one way to, maybe just in a prioritized way to think about this would be, for example, the security surface area. So let's say you are aware of certain APIs that are exposing, let's say you're a bank and you're exposing some account creation, credit card management, etc. APIs, and you are making sure that they comply with your regulators standards, they apply, your security mechanisms, etc. But what if you also have these, what we are going to call shadow APIs, perhaps, where you don't have full visibility, therefore you cannot even make them comply. You don't know that there is a gap. So those risks are extremely, I would say, in terms of things you should worry about. If you don't have visibility, you can't secure, you cannot make them comply, maybe you're under a regulated environment or so forth. Then the infrastructure, like, is something that, people should think about. Over provisioning. How much extra hardware is now running the same or very close to same API that you don't have visibility over. Fragmented analytics. Users coming in with use cases that are powering through, let's call them your visible APIs, but some of them coming through these less visible APIs, and now you have this fragmentation that's actually going out into your ecosystem, which I think is a major problem. You want to change the business logic. How will you roll this out? It becomes a huge problem. See, without, there is a saying, right? I mean, if you can't see it, you can't measure it, you can't fix it. It comes down to that at the end of the day.
It's exactly what I was just thinking. If you can't see it, you can't fix it. And that's a big problem.
Exactly.
In that case, let's talk about Kong Connect a little here. How is it meant to rein in some of the common struggles as teams manage, increasing loads of APIs?
Yeah, great question. So let me tie this back to some of the stuff we already talked about. We talked about APIs as plumbing, becoming APIs as product, and there we talked about visibility from a governance perspective, from a security perspective. And I'll just use that framing. If you think about the things you could do with APIs, I would claim, and I would say something like you can build, you can run, you can govern, you can discover, and you can secure. Like five things: build, run, govern, discover, and secure. Right? These are the things you would do with APIs, the life cycle of an API. Kong Connect, our goal is to be the one-stop shop, the one platform for APIs that gives you all of these capabilities. So from the pure connectivity perspective, not just HTTP, but there are other types of APIs out there. So we provide data planes for a lot of that class of APIs. So we solve the, connectivity at scale, connectivity across clouds, connectivity across heterogeneous environments. You want to protect, authenticate, authorize. You want to rate limit. You want to protect your APIs. You want to shape your traffic, observability. So we provide you all of that. But that's just kind of almost table stakes. You would argue, right? What you want is to discover all the APIs in your ecosystem. You want to discover everything that is even in planning. So let's say I'm a developer. I'm planning this API. Maybe I need a place to go where I can go look up, does this API already exist? Or is there API that is close enough? What is the uptime on that API? How do I internally consume that API to build my API or my solution on top of? So catalog class of problem. In engineering, we call it an enumeration problem. Can I enumerate all my APIs and ask interesting enumeration questions on that? So that's a catalog. Kong Connect offers you the catalog. You want to take these APIs, you want to run analytics on them, you want to see their usage patterns, you want to see both a traffic and business use case, right? How are they being consumed? What is the sequence in which your APIs have been called? And then that's analytics. And then you discover some of these patterns and richness, and you realize you have grown to the API as a product thinking, and you're saying, I want to take some of these APIs together, stitch them in a very particular way so that they become a user journey or use case, and expose them out on a portal so my partners can discover from outside and come in and now take that flow and go all the way into metering and monetization and building out the whole monetization mechanism so you can actually monetize. I mean, not just in theory, but literally meter and then run plans and then have people come in, for at a, like a gold tier user for a particular API product versus a silver tier user, different pricing plans, different kind of features that you're releasing. So all of this, plus the ability to look at vulnerabilities, the ability to look at the security risks that are going on within your API surface. For example, the OWASP top 10 vulnerabilities in your API surface area as an example. Right. All of this integrated is the Kong Connect story. Like, we are trying not to just help one particular team, but the enterprise, the company with expressing and executing your API strategy.
Wow. And I guess that's where the combination of a developer portal and a service catalog
Yes.
really help improve that experience, probably both for consumers and producers.
100%, 100%. I mean, that is the, it's interesting. We divide the world into consumers and producers in this context. But if you look internally inside a company, you have both internal consumers and producers. Like I was saying earlier, as a let's say team that has to release some business functionality out, and I choose to do that as an API, I probably want to build on top of lower level APIs that are already out there. I have an internal discoverability issue now. Where are my APIs and how do I call them? And my user, some rather complex problems like my user, the authenticated user coming into the system, how do I translate them into an identity that is acceptable to those lower level APIs? And there's all that funky problems to solve. But it's so the cataloging system, you're right, you would come from that, from a producer perspective, saying, here are all our things that I'm putting up into the catalog. But catalog is automatically also an internal portal where people want to come, get richer info, discover, avoid duplication, and so forth. And of course, then once you have this catalog and you have these rich APIs, you start doing monetization part, and now you want to start exposing it outside. And that's where the portal comes into play. A nicely branded portal that looks exactly like you want it, that behaves the way you want it, where people can come, discover you, discover your documentation, register, sign up for monetization tiers you may have, and then full life cycle activate. Like, as in, nobody in this world probably wants to, you know, send paperwork to you and say, okay, now I'm going to wait for 7 days for you to turn this account on in some data plane. It's all has to happen at speed of light. That's what we do. Now, here's a fun thing. So all of what I described, I mean, traditionally portal is meant to serve humans, right? You come, you look at the documentation, you are evaluating. What about agents? What about all this agentic traffic that is slowly climbing up? We are already, I mean, as Kong, based on interactions with our customers and from our open source footprint, etc., we are already seeing agentic traffic starting to climb up, right? So our portals and our catalogs are actually also being built for agents, and I think that's very awesome. Yeah, that's very cool.
That really is. And, and you have Event Gateway as well.
Oh yes, yes, yes. My
And
my favorite
what
game.
gap does that fill, in the API life cycle?
So I mean, the reason I said it's my favorite gateway, as in, just if you'll just permit me to do a little bit engineering geek out. It is so we use the word data plane to describe stuff that's effectively doing the plumbing portion. So this data plane is actually built on new technology from scratch that we have written. It's on Rust and the Tokyo scheduler, and we're doing something really funky. This data plane can proxy today the Kafka brokers, in the future all kinds of message queuing systems out there, right? So it's a general purpose event proxy. uh, but the if you look at our footprint, it's about 10 MB in size. I mean, it's amazing what the right technology choices and all of that will let us do. But right now no, it's just it's just I just enjoy talking about that data
Oh,
plane.
yeah. Yeah. It's fascinating.
But just just answering your question, imagine, without quoting names, one of the biggest departments of the UK government is a customer of ours. They they use us for HTTP, and APIs that run on top of HTTP. But they also have teams that are actually using eventing systems internally, right? So now the team that is chartered, the central team that is chartered with governance on APIs, they're also looking at the eventing systems out there and saying, but they're also APIs at the end of the day. I mean, even if they're encoded in terms of this kind of protocol and messages and whatnot, you are still executing business logic on the other end, right? That's what's happening. And then if you think about it, a lot of the things that we already solve in the HTTP world automatically apply. Those problems and therefore the solutions apply in the event world. I want to see my messages. Where can I get this message from? Which is same as, does anyone else have this API already? What is the shape of it? How do I subscribe to it? Like, what are the rules and so forth? And now one very interesting problem. So there's a catalog, is what I was describing, and schema evolution and so forth, and analytics on top of that. But very interesting problem, that we are enjoying solving right now is, let's say you are a full eventing company. You are completely bought in. You have all these events going on, and you have all your business logic firing. And now you want to bring third party partners, like external people, to call into your system. The problem is, brokers, that central brokers, whatever your message queuing system be, usually cannot be put on the internet. It's not, it's not recommended that you open them up on the internet. So you need something in between that can take eventing information and kind of upgrade that to HTTP, ship it over the internet to the other side, and then ship it back, and then translate back. Yeah. So we do that too at the boundary, right? So these are some of the things our event gateway is trying to solve.
Oh, wow. So that's really opening a lot of doors then.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, teams are realizing, the central architecture teams and the central API teams are realizing that there are multiple types of API traffic out there. It's not just about HTTP. I mean, LLMs. As applications talk to LLMs, that traffic is climbing. You want governance on top of LLMs, and LLM governance is not the easiest, because instead of structured information, you're now speaking English. So you have a prompt, it's English or whatever language, and maybe you're in a regulated industry, maybe you're a government or a healthcare or something, and you say, no, I cannot send what could be potentially PHI or even biased information out to the LLM exiting my boundary? How do you detect that? Or even the more technical problem of inference speed up. It takes too long for the LLM to reply. Can I respond fast? Actually, Kong solves those problems using our AI gateway. But my point is that governance on all of these are going rapidly becoming concerns of the same team, so that these teams have to invest in technology that will give them cover over all of these developing systems, not just one class of traffic.
Yeah. Oh wow. Oh wow. Yeah, that's a can of worms. So I guess that's a good segue into talking about, AI gateway and how it can maybe simplify integrations and at the same time maintain security.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And if I may, if you permit me, I'll also add compliance as an element to the problems that AI gateways have to solve. But to your point about simplifying, kind of models and integrations and so forth, like one of the things we see, we have some of the largest AI. I'm going to call it AI strategy implementations. People who very very large companies that are walking the AI journey are choosing to express their AI strategy and their AI governance using our AI gateway, and you know the special no I would say, let me go back a little and say the question you asked about model integration. What is the hard problem? See, models are coming every day. There is a new model and a new awesome.
Every day. It's nonstop.
You can't keep up, right? You just can't keep up. But then let's say a new model comes out that gives you better responses for a certain class of prompts, or better, faster inference, cheaper inference, for example.
Uh-huh.
Your application probably is modeled and written to work with the API of that other model, and now you have to rewrite portions of your application to make it work. Now, how do you keep up? It's too hard.
It's
Instead,
it's next to
imagine.
impossible. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. Instead, imagine you had this central thing sitting between your application and the LLM that always exposes a stable API to you, but you could trivially switch the models just with an argument or a extra annotation somewhere. So it gives you stability against change on that side. At the same time, your inference speed up, semantic features. For example, you could say, if my prompt has this bias, or has say customer, looks like it has customer contractual information, or it is talking about, let's say, citizens of another country, and I can't have that because of these reasons, exit out of my boundary, then understanding the semantic meaning and then applying rules on that. Kong gateway will do that. AI gateway will do that. Kong's AI gateway will act, can I mean, maybe I'll give you a trivial example. If you were, it's my favorite go
Yeah.
to.
Yeah, I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, if you ask what is the price of the latest iPhone, and you get an answer, let's say, back from the LLM, and say what is the price of the newest iPhone, it is the same semantic meaning. Why would you hit the LLM, right? You want something, but it's not cacheable in a traditional system, because the cache keys, aka the questions, are different, but semantically they mean the same thing. It's the same answer.
Yeah, it's a similar problem to keywords through AI
Exactly.
too, that
Exactly.
they're always going to be a little different.
Exactly, exactly. I mean, the technical complexity that this LLM traffic brings in, it's in addition to everything that HTTP kind of stuff brings in, is a semantic element to it. You have to have that semantic, multimodal semantic analysis is required. I'll finally say this one last thing. Uh, you know, for AI gateways, their problem space is actually dual. As in, if you think about it, your application is not just working with prompts, it's also possibly making HTTP calls, and other things are going on. And at the end of the day, all of these, whether it's streaming prompts or direct request response chat API prompts, there are still all HTTP underneath. So not only do you need an semantic aware, model aware, LLM aware gateway, but you can't take away the HTTP basics, right? You still need that, and we are the only gateway that can provide you that full stack experience.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that. That's really interesting. So, I guess let's go here. Suppose I'm a developer starting work on a new project next week. Can you walk me through kind of the flow of a project without using Connect versus using Connect and how that's different?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. If your problem, the project you're working on, is probably you're expressing that or intend to express that as a microservice or a service, so let's say connectivity. How am I exposing? Like there is this whole, what we were jokingly calling the plumbing problem. The plumbing problem is now back if you don't have a robust data plane where you can express your authentication policies, your authorization policies, your routing policies, your DNS concerns, your shaping concerns, and all of that class of problems. So that's there. And in the Connect stack, our Connect stack starts from a data plane and goes all the way up, right? So you run into the plumbing problems first, you have to solve all of those. And then you climb up to the, okay, before I start writing the code, I need to know what can I build on top of what I'm trying to build. Maybe is this as simple as I just compose over 4 APIs that already exist? Why am I writing all this code? Ship faster, right? That's what you want. You want to ship robust, ship faster.
That's the mantra.
Exactly, right? Why would you rewrite everything, right? And so a place to go discover all of this, right? So that's a catalog. A place to understand what is already available and how do I sign up and whatnot. So without that catalog, I mean, I have done this at previous organizations back long back in my career. Guess where? I mean, guess guess where people record their existing landscape.
Spreadsheets, notepad, post-it notes.
And then a Confluence page, perhaps, I mean, more sophisticated. But yeah, it's not, what I say, it's not live. What I mean is, you need a system, perhaps into which you have done GitHub integration or GitLab integration. Your source control for the service you already have in production is linked into the catalog, and the catalog is actively monitoring your source control to even see what changes are happening. You need a catalog that is actually monitoring your SLA, the actual yeah, your actual uptime. It's actually monitoring, for example, say with PagerDuty or equivalent, what's your uptime, what's your open tickets, what's going on, right? You, this needs to be live catalog. It's not just a static record, because as you well know, spreadsheets are out of date the moment you hit save. Um, yeah, so you need something like that, and then you need and going from there, let's say if you wanted to publicly expose this outside, you need the whole portal mechanism. Imagine a backend team trying to build a portal by themselves. Is not the best use of the time. What you need is, yeah, a technology that already solves that for you, right? And then there is the whole analytics side, telemetry side, and debugging side. So this is what I meant by, as a developer, you want to be able to build, that's your mock testing, and we have this program called Insomnia that lets you do that. It's integrated into our bigger story. But you need to be able to build. You need to be able to run. You need to be able to govern. You need to be able to discover what's going on, and you need to be able to secure. And all those guarantees, if you are a programmer using Connect, we let you focus on what you must do, the business logic, and take care of the other stuff for you.
Where you can check it all in one place. Oh, that makes so much sense.
Yes. And if I may, we also help one more role, which is in the central architecture teams, and let's say security team wants to ask the question, how many of my APIs that are out there are suffering from, say, this particular OWASP vulnerability, as a question. Or the central architecture team says it is required that all of our APIs must, when they return an error, must have this format, like standardization. So you need a place where you can express this and then apply it. As in, these are non-negotiables. So these can't be done just through, documentation and instruction, but through machinery, right? So that also we allow the centralized governance, and expression. The correct word we say is, actually we say federated governance. The meaning is, individual teams can move really fast, and you can still have a central place to go in and put your core governance rules, and we decouple these two fairly, so that you get the guarantees you need, but you don't slow down your teams.
Any chance? I know we've talked a little about clients and that you weren't comfortable sharing names, but are you able to share maybe a story where Connect was able to cut duplicate APIs or maybe an accelerated AI use case?
Absolutely. I mean, I actually can quote a referenceable customer case studies published online. So this is one of the oldest and biggest private banks in Philippines. I think they were incorporated in 1951, if I remember. Security Bank from Philippines, and they I mean, because their technology has evolved over time. They actually had a full enterprise service bus, ESB, almost acting like an API gateway. They moved from that model to Connect, and across 10 core business large business units, they actually identified and brought down duplicate reduction to about 25% of their APIs. So some direct duplicates, some so close enough that you just wanted one of the APIs to have an additional parameter. That's it. And why would you double your infra, right? So huge TCOs. um I can also, if you'll permit me, I can't take names here, but you know, we have some, I'm going to say, like Fortune 50 customers that are expressing their entire, for example, their AI strategy and their API strategy using Kong, where we have actually run into traffic throughputs of like 7 million requests per second, steady state, right? It is, yeah. I mean, it is. I mean, this may not be a published fact, but it is actually true that outside of the biggest e-retailer Black Friday event, we are probably the third largest Black Friday events powered through Kong. The amount of traffic that we push through at tremendously low latencies is just awesome.
And the consumer has no idea.
I bet that, Corey, today you and I'm pretty certain most of our viewers right now have gone through a Kong proxy or Kong powered API today. As if you have been on the internet, you have gone through Kong.
I
If
would bet I have more than one tab open right now that's going through Kong.
100%, 100%.
Oh my gosh. Well, looking ahead, um, what does a friction-free API ecosystem look like? And how do you think Kong will push that frontier?
Yeah, that's a great question. Actually, the way you described this, Corey, is exactly, I would say, that is the mission of Kong. That's what Kong wants to do. That's our true focus, right? So, with an example that we just quoted before, you have HTTP teams that have traditionally owned HTTP APIs and been responsible centrally for them, now want to extend those same visibility, governance, security, etc., to eventing APIs, to AI gateway and LLM kind of use cases. And there will be many more like streamings and WAF, and there'll be many more of these class of use cases where that class of traffic will have the same governance burden on it, so to speak, right? And so maybe a prediction from me, and we can check how true it'll turn out. I'm sure
We'll come back in a few years.
it'll
Yeah.
come. At the lower layers, at the plumbing layers, so to speak, API traffic is going to become multifaceted or multi-nature, multi-type. There will be companies will have mix, and just because you are not HTTP or not this or not that doesn't mean those governance, those build, govern, discover, secure, or none of that. Those obligations are not there. Those obligations are absolutely there. So what do you want is you want a system where new types of this class of plumbing traffic can be brought in, where new teams can be trivially onboarded and their day-to-day life cycle are completely solved. You have a catalog that solves your problems. You have an IDP integrated that solves your problem. You have a vault that manages your secrets for you, and all of this integrated together. So the incremental cost of bringing in a new class of denizen or citizen into your API world should be really low, right? And that for me is a truly frictionless place where you get to, and that's what Kong is building.
Kind of like with email or where some think AI is headed, this idea that to serve up one instance is going to be a fraction of zero.
Exactly, exactly. I mean, the incremental costs truly have to come down everywhere, right? Whatever you want to do with an API, whatever type of API, that full life cycle, the incremental cost of adding new people onto it and performing action really needs to go down. It should be frictionless, one single integrated platform. That's what Kong is building. As we grow, as we become bigger, that's the big, large, durable company that we want to build.
Saju, this has been great. Before we wrap, if listeners want to go learn more about Kong Connect for themselves, where do they go next?
Cloud.konghq.com. I'll repeat it.
We'll
Cloud.
put that at the bottom too.
Oh, yeah. Yep, absolutely. At the bottom, cloud.konghq.com. Right? You can go, sign up, social login, and just take it for a spin.
Well, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for watching eSpeaks. Saju Pillai, thank you so much for joining us. It's been super interesting learning how Kong Connect can really turn sprawl into speed.
Thank you so much for having me on, Corey. This was absolute fun. You're a fantastic host.
Well, I appreciate it. If you enjoyed today's conversation, be sure to take a minute to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and leave us a review. Really helps others find the show. I'm Corey Knowles, and I'll see you next time.